Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, as today we got another episode of reviewing NHL teams offseason so far. As today we got the Columbus Blue Jackets ahead of us, as they had a crazy offseason getting Mr. Johnny Hockey, but then they did some other weird moves, locking up Gabranson to an atrocious contract. But before we get into talking about the Blue Jackets' crazy offseason, I'd like to just say, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. It'll be very much appreciated there, boys. So let's get into Kukalainen's crazy ass offseason that they had this year. Like I said, they got Johnny Hockey, which I think was one of the biggest moves of the offseason, and got him to a fantastic contract as well, $9.75 million over the next 7 years. It was supposedly rumored that he was offered like 10.5, near $11 million by the Calgary Flames, but he yet turned it down. So, him ending up in Columbus, I thought was absolutely insane, especially since he had an absolutely incredible season of 115 points in 82 games. Johnny Hockey is just everything I think the Columbus Blue Jackets want. He's that type of all-star player that will bring in the people, but he's also that type of guy that could be a huge guy for the future of this team without a doubt, and I'm really excited to see what this team will do, especially when you have Ken Johnson, who's been playing amazing in the World Juniors, and also Cole Sillinger, who had a really good season last year. When you got those two guys coming up the pipeline as your center core, and now you got Laine and Johnny Gaudreau locked up for a decent bit as your wingers, this looks like a really deadly team here in the coming future. So, but there's still some bad moves that they did bring in, which Eric Branson was an absolute atrocious deal, which we're going to be getting into a little bit later on. But let's get into the moves. Let's get into the draft, of course, first. Now, I thought the draft, they did really good. I absolutely loved their draft. They loaded up in the defensive core, which I definitely thought they needed to do this year. Was loaded up a little bit in their defensive core. You know, they picked up David Urasek at 6th overall, who is a very good two-way defenseman, right-handed, is going to be a really good pair alongside of Zach Werenski in the future. Werenski is a great offensive defenseman, but doesn't play fantastic defensively. And with now the acquirement of David Urasek, if I'm saying his name hopefully right, he's going to be a really good two-way defender to play alongside of Zach Werenski here in the future. So great move. And then they got Dante Mayanchuk, who is also an amazing offensive guy. This guy has a great upside. He was almost a point per game there for the Moose Jaw Warriors. Point per game in the playoffs. He was absolutely amazing this year for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and is going to be a really scary guy. Now, you look at the defensive core, right? They didn't have a lot of big names. You know, Carson Kuhlman's and Civil was their biggest prospects in that defensive core. So getting those two big guys, I think, honestly bolsters their defensive core immediately in the future. And with Urasek, you could potentially see him, not just this year, maybe even next year, and you might be able to see him jump in the lineup real quick. I think he's going to be a really good defenseman here for the future of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and fans should be really excited to see him in the future. Some other great picks that they selected: Luca Del Balzels. That's a hard name to say. Holy crow. Played for the Mississauga. Great offensive guy. Put up some real good points for Mississauga. Kirill Delzanenkov. Tons of hard names to say, but this is another big Russian that honestly has a great upside. He's a big guy, so his skating is something to be talked about. He definitely needs to improve upon that. But he played great in the MHL, great for the under 18s there in Russia. This is a guy that could be really a good future player if he works on the things that he's struggling on right now. But a real good job for the Columbus Blue Jackets, especially since they did really good with their 2 first-round selections. And this was the pick that they got out of Seth Jones. So, this was a great trade for them, looking back at that Seth Jones deal now, looking back at a year ago now, getting Cole Sillinger and now David Urasek. That sets them up perfectly for the future, and also Adam Baughquist as well. They really just fucking robbed the Blackhawks without a doubt. Just absolutely fleeced them. Holy crow. But yeah, they also made a deal, but we're going to be getting into that a little bit later on. Well, we get into it now, I guess, because they picked up Johnny Gaudreau and then they signed Patrick Laine, and they absolutely got fleeced on this deal. Now, before we hop off, I know I'm going all over the place, but the draft, I really love it. I think they did absolutely fantastic in the draft. I don't think I've seen anything wrong with their draft. But they had an horrendous trade with trading away Bjorkstrand. They are trying to clear out cap. So, of course, when you're trying to clear out cap, you have really no leverage. But Bjorkstrand, amazing two-way right winger player, a guy that you would love to keep on the team. Unfortunately, they weren't able to, and they had to dump him off for just a 3rd and 4th round pick, and they got absolutely fleeced in this deal. Absolutely just fleeced. I bet they're hoping that they didn't pick up Voracek nowadays. I mean, Atkinson, they should have kept Atkinson, but even then, his contract was really long anyways. But, Bjorkstrand is the type of player you want to keep. But yeah, you had to clear out some cap space to make room for both Laine and Gaudreau. And they're still in the negatives, so they still need to clear out a bit of cap. But only if they did not pick up Gabranson, they wouldn't have had to deal with this. But anyways, moving on from that, really bad deal. But we'll get into the signings now. Where honestly they had a pretty good, signing stage. They only had one really bad signing. We all know which one that is, which was Gabranson. But they re-signed Korpisalo to a year, just another, backup year for him. Jack Rosalovich, I really like him. 2 years at $4 million for a decent player who's going to play, 2nd, 3rd line minutes. I really like the deal. Jack Rosalovich did pretty good last year. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, posting 45 points in 81 games. Was their 2nd line guy. Probably will be the 3rd line guy this year, but produces some good offense. Doesn't play too bad defensively. Honestly, not a bad AAV for Jack Rosalovich, especially since it's only at 2 years. Tarasov is going to be an enticing player, I think, for the Blue Jackets in the future here. Put up some really good numbers this past season. Really played good in the KHL. I think is going to be a really, really good goaltender for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And honestly, you might see him play a lot this year. And it's honestly a steal of a deal if you're able to get him to 3 years at $1 million. That is an absolute steal. And be ready to see Tarasov be probably maybe even a number 1 guy. Maybe be kind of like a Billy Husso for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Adam Baughquist, another good deal, He's been showing off some really good offensive abilities. Hasn't been playing great defensively. But, 3 years at 2.6, not a bad deal for Adam Baughquist. Not too shabby. This one, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this one. I think it was mostly maybe because of Johnny Gaudreau, me and Perlo talked about. But this deal was horrendous. You don't sign Eric Gabranson. I don't know what's with people giving fucking Eric Gabranson $4 million. It was Vancouver, and now it's Columbus. This guy is not a $4 million defenseman. He is ass cheeks. He is booty. He's not good. He is not good at all. He had a good season. He probably had one of his best seasons ever, but even then, that was not even that good. He's not that good defensively. He had a half-decent offensive season, but he still plays like ass defensively. He is not a good defenseman at all, and I don't know why they signed him to $4 million when they have Andrew Peeke, who played quite well defensively this past season, and you also have David Jiricek coming up the pipeline. This Eric Gabranson move was boneheaded and stupid to pick him up for that type of AAV. That is absolutely stupid. Even if it was a move where you're picking him up for Johnny Gaudreau, you do not sign him to that and sign him to a no trade clause at that, man. That is just boneheaded and stupid. Not a good signing here by the Columbus Blue Jackets. And for me, that tanks their free agency grade by a lot for me, especially even with the Bjorkstrand move. I think that tanks it a lot because this type of move is the type of move you do not want to make. This is the type of player you do not want on your cap hit. The next move I really like. We already talked about Johnny Gaudreau, but absolutely amazing move. Great offensive producer. He's going to be a great player. Patrick Laine, he's a weird one because he's been totally ass 5-on-5. He's been good on the power play, but he's been totally ass 5-on-5. He had a pretty good season this year being a point per game player, but it's really going to be, deciding point. Can he stay consistent and can he be that big player for the Columbus Blue Jackets going into the next year? And I think if he plays alongside of Johnny Gaudreau, I think he'll have a pretty good season. And that was really about it for all the signings that the Columbus Blue Jackets made. Looking at their team, I still think they're kind of a tweener team this year, Their 2nd line looks pretty good, but I still believe they're kind of a tweener team unless Sillinger really pops off, and same with Ken Johnson. But they'll kind of decide going into next year. And their defensive core is still not looking great. When your best defensive defenseman is Gaudreau and Peak. Bean's not that good. Werenski is all right defensively, but he's more offensively, and also Adam Baughquist. That brings in a lot of concern here for the Columbus Blue Jackets, especially for me. I'm not a big fan of their defense core, and especially when you're having to 100% rely on Elvis Merzlikins, that brings in some big concern here. So honestly, for my grade for this team, there's a lot to like. I like the Johnny Gaudreau signing. I like the Patrick Laine signing. I like their draft. But really what, hits me is the Erica Branson signing was really bad. The Bjorkstrand trade was really bad. Honestly, for me, I'll give them a B-. I think with the Gaudreau and Laine deal was really good. If they didn't do the Branson deal, most likely this would have been, near a B+. Especially if the Bjorkstrand trade wasn't there, this would have been almost near an A. If they didn't do that type of deal and they didn't get fleeced like the way that they did. I think if they did trade away Bjorkstrand, I think it would have been fine if they didn't totally get fleeced and they only traded him for a third and fourth. But yeah, that's about it there, guys. Tell me, guys, in the comment section below what you guys thought of the Columbus Blue Jackets offseason. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Adios, amigos.